Good morning. My dog's having a little fit outside. There he is, he's back. So anyway, somebody asked me about Memphis style dry rub ribs and how do I make them. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of ribs they are. I love them. In Edmonton, and this is only in Edmonton, we have what is called the dry garlic rib, and you'll find that at the Chinese food places. It has a very garlicky spare rib, and I believe they've taken baby back ribs and cut them in half and then individually sliced them apart and coated them in this garlicky dry rub, which is delicious if you sprinkle it with lemon juice and just chow down on them like the pig that you are. Not that I would know anything about that. But living in the South, I discovered the Memphis dry rub ribs. And we had gone to Rendezvous in Memphis, which is a famous dry rub place. Matter of fact, so much so that Elvis was a huge fan. And when he was on tour, what he would do is he would order those and have them sent to him. Now I went and I wasn't crazy about them. I don't know what I was expecting, but they weren't the delicious, slathery, dripping in sauce kind of ribs that you and I might be used to. So, after a couple years, I tweaked the recipe just a little bit and made my own version. Of course, this is always better on a grill. Cook it low and slow. But today we're using the oven because it's damn cold out there. So let's go ahead and look at my ribs. Now, what you're looking at is St. Louis style ribs. And if you're wondering what the difference is between baby back and St. Louis style ribs, let's pretend we're looking at a pig. Let's see how creative we can be. This would be the loin. The baby back ribs would be in here, the St. Louis ribs, and then the rib tips at the bottom. The St. Louis ribs have a lot more fat, henceforth making them much more tasty and succulent. So I happen to like using the St. Louis ribs, and it doesn't matter if I'm making a sticky rum rib recipe, which is ooey gooey and delicious, or a dry rub. I think the Memphis style ribs lend themselves well to the St. Louis type of rib here. So, all that being said, what do we do once we have this slab of ribs in front of our face? Well, take your handy dandy knife, and what you're going to do is you're going to work it along each of the bones, and you're going to loosen this connective tissue, which is known as the silver. And once it's all loosened up, you're going to take a piece of paper towel, like so, hold on to your ribs, and rip it all off. Now, I don't care who you are, no matter how awesome your recipe is, if you don't get rid of that connective tissue, your ribs will suck. Because there's no amount of cooking that is going to make them tender and fall apart, unless that is gone. So, let's pretend that's all done. What we're going to do is we're going to move over to this little recipe right here. And you're thinking, what, pray tell, is that? Well, that is apple cider vinegar, the natural kind. I like to use Bragg's. I don't get paid for this, but this is what I happen to like to use. Now, some people just slather their ribs in mustard, which is, of course, water, mustard, and vinegar mixed together, or some people just use oil. I like to use a combination of olive oil and the vinegar, and once it's all mixed up, I slather it all over my ribs that have the silver removed, and then we have the base for delicious ribs. So here's my proprietary recipe for my dry rib. Now, I'm going to share this with you, and you're not going to tell anybody because I love you that much. So, I took 3/4 a cup of white sugar, 3/4 a cup of packed brown sugar, 1/4 a cup of garlic powder, also 1/8 of a cup of onion powder, and you can use that or leave it or whatever. I used 1/2 a cup of Spanish paprika. Now you can use smoked paprika, hot paprika, sweet paprika. I use Spanish paprika because that's what I had. Rosemary. I've used 2 tablespoons of rosemary, and I had to hand grind it because it's very hard to find ground rosemary. I didn't happen to have any, so I faked it. Do not leave this out. If you'd rather use oregano, that's okay, but I like rosemary. It works well in this recipe. I used count them, 2 tablespoons of ground ginger. Do not leave this out. I do not care what you're doing. Run to the store, get it, put it in there. You must have it. I also used 2 tablespoons of black pepper. Now you can use white pepper, whatever. So we got our sugars, we got our garlic and our onion, we have our paprika, we have our ginger, our pepper. I added a little bit of cumin and a little bit of cayenne pepper because I like things spicy. Some like it hot. Now, okay, that being said, you can tweak this recipe to who you're serving. I have friends who are very sensitive to cayenne peppers and stuff of that nature. So, remember who you're cooking for because it's important. You want it to be good for them too. If not, go ahead and make this for half your crowd and then go ahead and make the sticky rib recipe, which is very easy, and maybe I'll get around to sharing that with you. So, we've taken our ribs. They're slathered in the vinegar and olive oil mixture. And this is important so that your spices will stick to it. By the way, do not look at this spice combination and just think about ribs. This is really good on salmon and popcorn. Go ahead, use it on your popcorn. Get a spicy, sweet popcorn. Delicious. Okay, that being said, we're gonna put it in our oven at 250 for 3 to 3.5 hours. That will break down any of the fat and connective tissue, and when you are done, you are gonna be left with a succulent, delicious rib. Okay, so cooking is not brain surgery. It's about different textures and flavors coming together, and you're sharing it with your friends and your family and your loved ones. So get out there, go do it. Share with me your results, your tweaks on the recipes. I'd love to hear about them.